Hello, do-it-yourselfers. Today we are painting a textured ceiling that had never been painted before, which is quite common and not a bad look, but over time they fade. As you can see here, it was not even close to white. The first step is what I call cutting in, or painting the edges of the ceiling where it touches the walls. It is important to get good coverage with your brush, so dip it about an inch into your paint pot. It is also important not to make a mess, so do not dip it 5 inches into your paint pot. After dipping, your brush will drip unless you tap it against the sidewall. The dip and tap technique helps surface tension win the fight against gravity, at least long enough for you to get the paint where it's supposed to go without making a mess. For good coverage on a textured dry ceiling like this, only brush 8 to 12 inches or so per brush dip. I'm brushing over the same spot multiple times, making sure to cover and fill in all the dimples and crevices the texture creates. I am also using a Purdy XL 2.5 inch brush today, which is my favorite for ceilings. Also, I am running the paint onto the wall, 1, because we are painting the walls next, and 2, because it's good to fill the corner with paint anyway. It will lead to a better line when I cut walls into the ceiling. Now I'm showing you what not to do and why. With one dip, I'm brushing a couple feet and the coverage is awful. This is the most common mistake for beginner painters. If you don't have any attention to detail, it looks kinda white, and at a glance it is white instead of faded and old looking. However, if you paint like this, you will have misses and light spots and will need to do it again. No one wants to paint a ceiling twice when once can get the job done. So now we go around the room and get it all cut in. Lights or smoke detectors can be removed if it's easier, but that's not always the case. Then we can move on to step 2, which means we are bringing out the roller and going to get a shoulder workout. With this fresh sleeve that isn't very saturated yet, I'm only going to roll a couple feet with minimal pressure and then dip again. I do not want the nap of my sleeve to get compressed. I want it to absorb more paint and perform better for the rest of the ceiling or ceilings I may be doing this day. A little more pressure is required with a textured ceiling compared to a flat, but it still isn't much. Too much pressure will result in heavy lines being made at the edge of your roller sleeve. If you do this, it is an easy fix. Just be aware and smooth them out with your next pass. The right amount of pressure on the ceiling is important when rolling it out. If you can see light spots through the paint even after a couple passes, then you need more for sure. But if you are leaving heavy edge lines, you need less. Also, make sure your roller is flat on the ceiling. You can get edge lines by having too much pressure towards one end of your roller sleeves. I'm going to slow this down to 2x speed here for a moment so we can see how far each dip is going and the coverage we are getting. Ceilings can usually cover in one coat. Just don't stretch the paint too far and put the paint on nice and even. If the ceiling had priorly been painted a dark color, 2 or 3 coats may be needed, and that is unfortunate. Also, I use a bucket and grate and not a roller pan for a few reasons, some of which are not having to refill the paint so often. You can comfortably fill up a bucket with 2+ gallons and still rest the handle on the grate. A roller pan is always more of a mess as well. This ceiling is looking really good. It covered wonderfully in one coat despite it being old, dry, and faded. Step 3 today is take a break and sip on a Diet Dr. Pepper. And don't forget, level up your house.